Welcome on in, folks, to the Jets Roundtable. I'm your host, Richie Maloro. We got the myth, the legends of Mr. Matt O'Leary himself and Jake Asman live here on the Jets Roundtable. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on your way in, your weekly show where you can get all the latest news about the New York Jets. There's a lot of topics I wanted to get into today, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Hit the like button, and we cannot wait to dive deeper into some Jets news with who better than Matt O'Leary and Jake Asman. Matt, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. Excited for the combine next week. I feel like we'll finally get some nice stories and rumors out of that. So looking forward to that a week from now.
Me as well. Jake, how you doing, brother?
Living the dream. Another week in Jets paradise, baby.
Jets paradise, man. What's better than an off season filled with hope that we're going all the way next year, baby? Crickets. Listen, we got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Matt mentioned it. You know, the combine is next week, so we wanted to give you the latest stories heading into the combine because usually that's when you get a good idea of what's happening. All the GMs and the head coaches come together. People start talking. And I'm happy to announce that I will be at the combine next week, and so will Jake. And it's going to be my first time ever going, which is exciting. You know, Roundtable Sports got officially approved, and I'm coming from a 2-week trip. And I'm just moved into a new apartment, and now I'm going back on the road. I know Jake can relate to that. So, Jake, I'm excited for that, man. I'll see you there next week.
It's going to be fun, man. Combine, I think, is, if you're a football fan, like, it's all football. You just walk around, you run into media people, coaches, GMs, scouts, prospects. It's like everyone in the NFL universe in one spot. So it's really cool.
And we're going to get into all the news around the NFL and the Jets in this one. So let's get straight into it. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat real quick. We got my boy Edgar, Danger Zone. Hit the like. We appreciate you. Sprockets in the chat. One Eye Leaf was like, start the show. Oh my gosh. Where are you guys? Don't worry. We're here. All right. We made it. That's all you can ask for. All right. But let's get into the first topic. Jets free agent targets they should target, all right? There's a lot of names linked to the New York Jets. Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn are going to be bringing in new pieces. We found out that the Jets are actually leading the NFL in dead money, but good news is they are fourth in cap space. It's not hindering their ability to spend in the offseason, which is a positive. I definitely want to get your thoughts of that. Before we get into some actual players the Jets should target, Matt, what's your overall perspective of the current status of the Jets cap space as we enter the free agency market? You got a lot of money you're paying to players that are no longer on the Jets, but there's not really a lot of players currently on the Jets you're giving a high price to, which is why they still have top 5 in cap money heading into free agency.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation, right? You would think a team with the most amount of dead money in the NFL isn't going to have a ton of cap space, but you know, assuming they cut Justin Fields, they're going to be up near the $80 or $90 million in cap space mark, which, you know, is important. They need to add a lot of guys. I think they're going to be aggressive on the defensive side of the ball and try to rework that defense. But, you know, they have the money to spend. They have the draft assets, which we know. I'm sure we'll talk about that as well. But, you know, for me, I think they are going to be aggressive and try to get some guys in here to push the needle forward in 2026.
This regime is inheriting an all-in to win the Super Bowl type of mindset a few years ago. Because when Aaron Rodgers came in here, the Jets had to inherit that contract, rework it. Rodgers actually took a pay cut, so it's not as bad, even though it is still bad to this day. They went all in for certain prospects, of course. They trade away Sauce and Quinnen, and a lot of that money they're eating so they can get really good premium draft picks. But, Jake, what's your thoughts of how Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn are going to have to maneuver this lucrative $90+ million of dead cap entering the offseason?
I think they got to use it, right? They got to be ultra aggressive. They got to decide, are they going to be aggressive on a couple stars and try and overpay a little bit, or do they spread it around? Is it a combination of the two? But they need to add talent to this team. They're coming off a 3-win season. The entire defense, you could just pick a position pretty much and say, yep, they could use in addition there. So, you know, what they do in free agency could impact their strategy in the draft. And obviously the quarterback situation is the biggest thing. Like, how much do you want to invest in that position? So they got to be aggressive. That's the biggest thing. I mean, they will not be here a year from now if they don't add some legitimate talent to the team.
And you can argue there's a lot of interesting prospects for the Jets to bring in free agency. And this team, in my opinion, is not going to be fixed in free agency. It's going to be the draft where they're ever going to be able to become a legit squad moving forward. But that's not to say you cannot find immediate impactful players in free agency. And that has to be with strategy, because they're not going to go out there and go after the top guys. They're going to have to find the level B and C guys in free agency that fits whatever they're trying to build here with the New York Jets. So with that being said, we've seen a lot of different names being linked to the New York Jets. Alex Anzalone from the Detroit Lions, Amik Robertson from the Detroit Lions. Those guys make sense. Their connections to Aaron Glenn. There's a lot of interesting candidates for the Jets to come on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they're going to go after a wide receiver. Who is that going to be? Quarterback? Wow, right? I just gave you a bunch of different options. But Matt, where are you at in terms of the biggest needs in free agency? Because we're going to do a mock draft eventually, but it's hard to really do a mock draft in my eyes before free agency, because you get a better idea of what strengths were filled. So my question to you is, what parts of this roster do you think should be prioritized in free agency so you go into the draft and worry about those other positions there?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. To me, I think I look at the safety room, and that's a position where, you're going to have Malachi Moore coming back, who was a rookie last year. I think in a perfect world, he's competing for a starting job. So to me, that's at least signing one safety and maybe adding another through the NFL draft. The linebacker room, I think, is a room that is going to be added to in free agency. Alex Anzalone is a name that gets brought up a ton with the obvious connection to Aaron Glenn. So that's a name to watch for the Jets. And then they have a decision to make at left guard, right? They have John Simpson and Elijah Vera Tucker, both on expiring contracts. And, more than likely going to have to choose between the two. So which of the two do you want to choose from? What's the decision there? And then, pretty much everything else after that, I think, could be, depth signings and adding through the NFL draft. But my guess is that you'd see, those two spots on defense and then a decision on guard.
The free agency market is all about getting veterans in the building. And Harrison Phillips, in my opinion, is the exact type of guy that the Jets need to find again in free agency. He's a unique breed. There's not a lot of Harrison Phillips in the NFL, but there are some culture guys. And that's what this Jets team needs, which is why I lean on Alex Anzalone. Now, is he phenomenal? Is he up there in age? Yeah, he's not a great football player in terms of he's not peaked. He's not in his prime anymore. The productivity is probably behind him. But a guy like Alex Anzalone would help be an extension of Aaron Glenn and help the culture. And I think we can all agree here, the Jets have a culture problem. And based off of what Harrison Phillips told me and Jake at the Super Bowl, when he said that there's a cancerous, truculent energy in the Jets, what he really meant was there's a mindset with the players that they start losing and then they get that feeling like same old Jets, and they all start playing for themselves instead of the group. And that's a toxic feeling when you're in the building. You're like, I'm playing with the Jets and we're losing. We're 0-7. And now here we go again type of feeling. How can that mindset be broken? You got to find pieces in free agency that have that. A perfect example, in my opinion, obviously the Jets didn't win much, but DJ Reed was a phenomenal free agent signing. He was a guy that came in on a really good contract. He started playing the best football of his career with the Jets, and he was a culture piece. He became a leader in that secondary, and I don't know who that guy is going to be, but we'll see. Jake, is there any type of culture piece you can see the Jets go after where it's not per se a super talented guy at the top of his game, but more just a guy that the Jets will lean on to be more of a piece to help, build a winning mindset with the guys?
Well, it's interesting how everyone brings up Anzalone. How about Demario Davis? I mean, he's a guy that also was around Aaron Glenn when Glenn was an assistant coach on the Saints, former Jet as well. So he's a name I'm looking at. You want another former Jet that fits that? How about John Franklin Myers? The Jets' downfall, if you want to call it that, really started to happen when they let JFM go for nothing. They traded him to Denver, and they never replaced him. And I thought he was a good leader. He could do a lot on the defensive line. Tough guy. I think that's the type of player they need. Players with that type of mentality, I should say. And again, they just need more talent in general, right? We could talk about, the culture of this or that. They need talent, man. And you want to get rid of the same old Jet stuff, win games. And that's why quarterback, beyond anything else we're going to talk about in free agency, they're playing for that position. That's the biggest thing. Can you get someone just competent so the rest of the team can kind of buy in again. Because I think when they saw Brady Cook playing down the stretch, they checked out. It was over.
Now, when it comes to a big splash, because talent is needed, as Jake said, who's the splash guy? And when I say splash, I mean, what's the largest contract the Jets are going to hand out in free agency? What position? Is it going to be quarterback? Because that's pretty much most likely. But outside of quarterback, what position do you think the Jets are going to spend the most on? A wide receiver, a safety, a corner, a linebacker? Like what position or what specific player could you see the Jets say, you know what, this is a guy we'll open up the bank for? Matt, any name come to mind in terms of their willingness to spend a lot of money?
Well, if we're going outside of the quarterback spot, I think if they were to take a big swing, Tyler Linderbaum would be the name that I'd want to see them take the big swing on at center. And, they brought back Josh Myers, but, he would be more of a depth piece as obviously that'd be a big upgrade for Tyler Linderbaum. So I don't think it's like an absolute necessity that they have to come out of free agency with a center, but this is one of those rare opportunities where a really good player is hitting free agency in their prime. So that's the one where I look at and go, if they're going to spend big money, let it be something like that. You look at linebacker or safety, those aren't usually crazy expensive positions. So, even by default, quarterback might be more expensive than that, even if it's not like the biggest name on the market. So I would just like to bring up Linderbaum's name in this conversation if they are going big fish hunting.
Yeah, I think that Linderbaum would be an absolute ridiculous splash signing because that really, I have top 5 perspective on this offensive line all of a sudden, if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like that is what the expectation is. And, on that same front, we all know that the big decision that the Jets are going to have to make between AVT and Simpson, is there a scenario where both of them walk? Because if they both walk, then you have a hole at left guard. And then you're looking at the free agent market or in the draft. So there's a lot of different options. But Jake, is there another guy that wasn't mentioned that you think the Jets would splash? You mentioned they need talent. Is there anybody you feel like from a splash perspective you can see the Jets being aggressive for?
So if I'm the Jets, after Linderbaum, I'm looking at one of the receivers. If you could potentially get Alec Pierce, if Michael Pittman, whichever Colt receiver is potentially available, I would look there. And then there's some other guys too. Like it might not be like a huge splash where like everyone knows these players, but some of the best safeties in this class are like Jalen Hawkins on the Pats or Cam Curl on the Rams, Kevin Byard on the Bears, the other Bears safety too. I like Jaquan Brisker. I think there's just some guys that you could add at that position where there's pretty good value. I wanted them to sign Javon Holland a year ago. They didn't. They went with Andre Sisco. That was a disaster. I think they need to invest some premium money into fixing the secondary. They didn't have an interception in any game last year. So there needs to be some drastic changes there.
An under-the-radar safety, a reunion. How about Ashton Davis, who worked with Brian Duker, the new defensive coordinator in Miami last year? There's a connection there. I don't want to bring him in as a no. I didn't say. I said as an under the radar guy, not splash.
Oh, okay.
He'll be competing.
He's the last
for
guy that had an interception for the Jets. So maybe
yeah, man, he was the only guy that actually sniffed the football. So when you look at the safety position, do you think we have a starter right now? Is Malachi Moore the starter? I think it's going to be an open competition between him and the Jets. Going to bring in 2 safeties, I would say, between free agency and the draft, or maybe more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's a guarantee that Malachi Moore is the starter. Now, I think he's talented enough to go out and win the job in camp, but like we were saying here, I think you're probably signing one in free agency and then maybe drafting another one, and he's competing with that draft pick for that final starting spot. That's kind of how I envision the positional group going.
In another position I feel like none of us is talking about, we're just like assuming it's a lock and we don't even need to address it, is slot corner. Is Jarvis Brownlee the guy? Are they going to bring in a competitor for that too? He looked really good when he first became a Jet, and then he fell off, and then he got hurt. So do you think Aaron Glenn and this team is all in with Brownlee being the starting slot this year, or is that another position they're going to try to upgrade?
I don't think they should be. I think they should be aggressive everywhere. Like Brownlee, he flashed some potential. He also committed a ton of penalties and then ended the year on injured reserve. So it's not like we have a ton to really base it off of. I'd be looking at as much competition everywhere. If there's a slot they like I know, what was the guy? Meek Patterson on the Lions was a name that the Athletic mentioned as a possible Jet Tardy or Amit Robertson, I believe is the corner's name. I don't think anyone on this defense, other than probably like Phillips and Briggs, has like a guaranteed starting spot at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be very interesting. And of course, the big elf in the room will wrap up the free agent talk with Breece Hall. Feels like the franchise tag, transition tag is most likely. Do you think that's exactly what's going to happen? They're going to slap the franchise or transition tag on him? And do you think Breece Hall will be a Jet when it's all said and done? Or is it going to get ugly where he wants out and he's going to do a trade or matching offers? Do you think it's going to be more the franchise or the transition tag, Matt? Which are the two?
I would go with the franchise tag. I think it just gives you some more exclusive rights to negotiate with him. And, I get it. It's a little expensive. It's a little over $14 million for a running back, but you could still negotiate a long-term contract extension through, I think the date's July 15th. They would have to get a deal done. So I don't want to lose him for nothing. I would look to bring Breece Hall back. And at a minimum, I think he franchise tag you. I don't think there's really a good reason not to do that.
Because if he does walk, then you're looking at another huge hole you're talking about. Like there's two pieces of this offense I think every Jets fan should be semi-hopeful about. And that's Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. If Breece walks, then you're looking at just Garrett. And then, you got Mason Taylor. I would say he's more solid than anything. Like I'm talking star potential. And that would be a mistake if the Jets let him walk. It seems like the franchise tag is most likely. Jake, do you think it's going to happen? Franchise tag on Breece?
I think it should. I think it'd be a huge mistake if they just let Breece go for nothing. Why didn't you trade him at the deadline, right? You could have had a 4th-round pick on the table from reportedly the Chiefs. The Jets chose not to trade him, so now you just let him walk, and then you create another hole when you have so many holes. I think it'd be a huge mistake if they just let Breece go for nothing. I think they should use the franchise tag on him. It's a good faith gesture, and using that over the transition tag because he gets an extra $3 million out of it. And as Matt said beautifully, you keep the full exclusivity window. And look, you still could trade him. You still could talk extension. But ultimately, he's on your team for the next year. And I think that should be a priority for the Jets before free agency starts.
100% agree with everything you guys said. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, folks, about the Jets free agency preview. Let us know if you stay to the end. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for some more Jets content. We appreciate it. Want to give a shout out to the people in the live chat saying no corners, dummy. All right, we're dummies. Pons at 44 might be in play for a slot. You never know. Tony Adams apparently has some interest around the NFL to be a starting safety, which is interesting. We'll see. Woody Johnson will probably say, no, yeah, you can leave based off that whole drama situation. But let's move right along.
How much do you think Tony Adams' agent paid for that one to be put out there?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm just kidding. But come on. Tony Adams getting interest around the league to do what?
Maybe in Tennessee. Jake. With Robert Saleh. Him and Michael Clemens, day one signees for the Tennessee Titans.
Makes total sense. Sure.
You think, the Titans are going to take all the former Jets, and they're going to probably be stars based off of what I know. All right. Jets 2026 mock draft heading into the combine. We're going to do a 2-round mock, folks.
Ooh.
Woo! We may have to do multiple iterations so we can all come to a consensus on these picks. There we go. Now, again, I hate doing mock drafts like at this stage, even though I love doing them at the same time because who doesn't love mock? It's just hard to really evaluate because we don't know where the Jets are going to go in free agency, but that does not shy us away from building our mock draft. So let's do it right here, right now. All right. So we're going to share the screen and get it started. Well, we know who's going number 1, folks. So we can skip that, right? Fernando Mendoza, right? Oh, okay. So let me hear your guys' thoughts about this whole discourse at pick number 2. Are you guys, let me frame it this way. Are you like, hey, bro, any of the 3 of Reese, Bain, Bailey I'm down for? Or maybe there's another guy that you really want the Jets to consider, like a Cornell Tate, for example, or a Caleb Downs? Like, do either of you have a stance that you're willing to die in the hill that it has to be this player? Or do you feel like you have more flexibility of where you want to go? Matt, I'll start with you.
No, I'm flexible. I think it depends, right? Like if the Jets are going to play a 3-4, I think Reese or Bailey makes more sense than Ruben Bain. So it's kind of dependent on what they decide they want to do there at that, on the defensive side of the ball. I like Ruben Bain. I just don't think he makes it like he's a 4-3 defensive end, in my opinion. And you kind of lose him. He's not a stand-up edge rusher. He would be a defensive end in a 3-4. And I just don't think there's as much value there taking him at 2. Hard to ignore the talent of Carnell Tate or Caleb Downs too. I know that's not really the traditional picks. Everyone else pretty much has him going with the edge, but 2 extremely premium talents in the draft, and I wouldn't be upset if either of those 2 guys were the pick.
Is there a world that the Jets shock everybody and draft someone like a Tate? Because that would be a shocker. Jake, where do you think you're leaning, and then where do you think the Jets are going to lean with this pick?
I'm okay with Bain, Reese, or Bailey as of now. I don't have a strong stance just yet. I want to see how the combine goes and what the Jets do in free agency. I do think, though, they're going to end up taking Arvell Reese. I think they'll bet on the upside. He's 20. I think he's going to test out of the gazoo next week in Indianapolis. And he could do a lot of different things. And I just think the Jets are going to maybe look at Ruben Bain and Reese as their top 2. And then the tiebreaker will be, oh, Bain's got shorter arms, so let's go with Reese. I just could see the Jets doing that. So I think they end up with Reese if I had to make a pick right now.
Now, if there was a shocking move, could you see them go for a Caleb Downs or a Carnell Tate? Or do you think it really is between those 3 guys?
I could see it. I mean, look, Downs, if he's clearly their best player on their board and it's drastic compared to the other players, they might have to seriously consider it because they do a pick again at 16. They have 33 and 44. You can't screw this pick up. You need a superstar here. A couple of years ago, the Giants took Kayvon Thibodeau in the top 5, and Kyle Hamilton slipped. Well, if you could do it over, would you rather have Kayvon Thibodeau or Kyle Hamilton, right? So sometimes you just got to take the best player. And if the Jets think that Downs is that good, I mean, you got to at least have the conversation.
Yeah, and they need help in the secondary desperately. And we have a former corner in Aaron Glenn going to be hands-on with the defense. Brian Duker, as the defensive coordinator, he was the secondary's defensive backs coach for Miami, so that's his specialty. So I do feel like there's going to be a little bit more focus on the secondary this offseason in terms of adding personnel. So that's why I feel like Caleb Downs is a little more likely than we think. So I say we just go with Arvell Reese here. Do you guys have any? Because I love Arvell Reese. I think that he brings a star potential that I absolutely feel like this Jets defense desperately needs. The utility of being a hybrid, playing on ball, off ball, reminds me of a Micah Parsons, can utilize him all across the defense. He can line up, he can play coverage, he can drop. I mean, he can do everything. And I feel like the Jets need that alpha, like that dog. And I feel like he brings that, especially with the youth element and his ability to just, I mean, I agree with you. I think the combine, he's really going to become something absolutely special. So I'm going to draft Arvell Reese here. All good?
Good with that.
Let's do it. All right. We are live now at pick 16. Woo! I know who Jake wants. Where's Ty Simpson at? Where's Ty Simpson for Jake? There he is. Jake, let's get out of the way. We'll draft Ty Simpson because you want him so bad there.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
All right. So what are we doing? Let's start off with you, Mr. Matt O'Leary.
See, it's tough that you kind of, in this scenario, you're hoping one of the 3 receivers gets there. They don't. I would think Denzel Boston, maybe Caden McDonald could be in play. Those are the 2 names that jump out. I know Daniel Jeremiah had the guard in the mock draft at pick 16 in his most recent one.
Well, that's only if ABT and Simpson walk.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I don't know if that's something that we really want to do. But the 2 names that jump out to me right now, I think, are Denzel Boston and Caden McDonald.
Now, where would they go? Now, let me throw something, another player. Do you think Avion Terrell is an option corner at this spot? Terrell.
I mean, yeah, he definitely could be. I kind of want to see what AZ Thomas is this year, and Brandon Stevens is going to play. I know that he's, he can get out of the contract after this year, but I think if you're drafting someone at 16, that kind of would sit AZ Thomas down. So I would wait on corner personally, but Yes, you can't. I mean, you can't rule out the position. Only
Jake,
position that you rule out is tackle. And right now, you have that figured out. Everything else seems up for grabs.
what do you mean? You don't want Caden Proctor for a swing?
No.
Jake, where are you leaning on this pick at 16 based off who's available right here?
I think I would go receiver here. If Denzel Boston's their highest graded receiver, I would have no problem taking him.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with as well. I think Denzel Boston fits that mold that I think would complement Garrett Wilson extremely well on the outside. So in this scenario, where would you think the Jets went in free agency at wide receiver? Do you think they signed someone? And if so, who to pair up with Boston? Would it be like a Wan'Dale Robinson? Would it be a more lesser name that's just a veteran, similar to a Josh Reynolds style guy? Or
I don't know if they would, right? Like, I think you still have Adonai Mitchell. Mechie, I think, will be here. Arian Smith will be here. So if you're taking one in the draft, I feel like that's kind of you're doing that if you're not signing someone. I don't know if you're signing someone and then also drafting a guy in the first round.
yeah, I do.
Agreed.
I do agree. I think the Jets are way higher on both Mitchell and Mechie than we think. Especially, they made sure those guys were, and Mitchell was a big part of that trade. Muji was not giving up sauce for 2 firsts. He wanted Adonai Mitchell, and that obviously shows you. So I think Denzel Boston would be a good pick. Matt, are you on board with that one?
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Would you prefer someone else? If you want to go put your wrench in it, say, nah, man, we need Spencer Fano.
No, I'm good with Boston.
Denzel Boston, be better than Denzel Mims, and you'll be all good. All right. Here we go. Ooh, Ty Simpson still available for Jake. Listen, man, pick 33 at the top of the second round. Sadiq is falling. Sorry, Mason Taylor. We're getting you. No, I'm just playing around. There's a lot of intriguing options here that I like. This was a stud at the Senior Bowl, if I believe.
Yep.
He was a stud at the Senior Bowl. He did catch my attention. So at pick 33, you got intriguing options here. Do they go Ty Simpson if they want to get their quarterback? Again, we don't know who their quarterback is going to be in free agency. You can go a lot of different directions. I'll start off with you, Matt. Anybody that's you like that are still available?
Yes, the 2 guys that I like are at the top, McNeil Warren at safety or Hill, the linebacker from Texas.
Okay. Anthony Hill Jr. and McNeil Warren are the 2 guys that Matt O'Leary is eyeing. Jake, anybody you're eyeing based off this?
Yeah, I'd run the card up for McNeil Warren. I feel really good about it.
Well, I agree. Let's do it. You got to get the safety. We passed on Caleb Downs, so you got to get your safety somewhere. Oh, man.
Now, truthfully, I do think the Jets could trade out of this pick and get a lot because the pick 33 after night 1, especially if Simpson were to be there, and the Jets probably would just take Simpson knowing them. But in this hypothetical scenario, I do think there'd be teams that want to come up to take Ty Simpson and you can get something.
Well, Ty Simpson goes to Miami in this scenario right before the Jets at pick 43. And here we are, pick 44. The final pick of this 2-round mock. So far, in case you are wondering where we're at, we got Reese Boston and McNeil Warren. And this is our final pick here for the Jets. So where could they go? Colton Hood is another guy that I liked at the Senior Bowl. Keontae Scott is more of a slot corner. If you wanted to replace a Brownlee, bring it in. Keontae Scott can be that. You could go double dip at edge, but I feel like that'll be a little redundant. You need a linebacker. You got Jake Galladay. So who do you think is available that you would want, Matt?
Ooh, I think right now my vote would be for Jake Galladay at linebacker. Just going, I know this kind of need based, like there are some corners there, but I feel better about the corner room than I do the linebacker room. So I'd rather prioritize adding linebacker first.
Jake, how about you? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm with Matt. I think it's a need. I mean, I also, for what it's worth, D'Angelo Pons I just saw is still there. I loved watching him if we're talking slot corner at Indiana. Put him with McNeil Warren and Arvell Reese. I think we fixed the Jet defense.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Colton Hood as well. that would be a big addition. So you got Pons, you got Galladay, and we got Hood. So I think we can get it. I think we need a linebacker. So I think I can get behind Jake Galladay from Cincinnati. How do we feel about that?
Boom.
Feel good.
Bang! Look at that. The first Jets roundtable. Wow, I got a reward. Woohoo, I got an award. Look at that. All right. The first mock draft of the Jets roundtable show. We just did a first 2-round mock. We get a B. Oh, all right. Sorry, PFF. I mean, what do you want from me? They didn't like that McNeil Warren pick, it seems.
They're big Ty Simpson guys.
Ty Simpson is the guy that they wanted us to get. So that is our mock draft. Let us know your grade for the mock that we just did in the comments. Do you guys like all 4 picks? Do you like 3 of the picks or not? Let us know. Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize, Matt. That's what it said on the top. It said you drafted McNeil Warren. They wanted us to get Ty Simpson. I didn't even realize it literally told us that. They're big Ty Simpson fans here. You have a need at quarterback. Why are you not getting a quarterback that's available? Interesting stuff. We are Ty Simpson haters, it seems, on this chat. But you never know. It could be a Jet. Could be a Jet. Well, if you guys enjoy the mock draft, let us know in the comments. We appreciate it. Super chat from Danger Zone. If we don't option Will McDonald, thoughts on whole defensive line expiring. If we do not extend his option, which I'd be shocked if they don't, then you're looking at the entire defensive line with expiring contracts in 27, which is actually very interesting. Won't be the case because you will be getting one at pick 2, most likely. But that, I think they're going to extend Will McDonald's 5th year, wouldn't you say, Matt?
I think so. I think they'd pick up his 5th year option. It's not a crazy number, and he was still, productive as a pass rusher. So I would expect them to pick that up.
Yeah, me as well.
I think so too. Yep.
The NFL Combine is this week. Who are we going to watch? Whose eyes are we going to, or who are our eyes going to be glued to? Jake, you're going to be there. So what are you looking forward to the most being at the Combine? You've been there multiple years. You know what to expect in terms of hearing from the coach. We're going to hear from Aaron Glenn. We're going to hear from Darren Muji potentially. We're also going to get the height and the measurements and all these 40-yard dashes, bench press, all these fun drills with these players. What are you looking forward to the most, Jake, of just being there yourself?
I think the biggest thing, Richie, is what you said, hearing from Glenn and Muji, especially Glenn. I mean, he fired half his staff after the season ended. It's only him and Hugh Jackson in recent NFL memory that have fired both coordinators, and the head coach wasn't fired after year 1. So I want to hear how he tries to explain that, what their plan is at quarterback. I think you get more out of it from a Jet standpoint from the press conferences than anything that will actually happen on the field with these players. In fact, most of the media clears out after the coach and GM speak early next week. I know I'm only in town till Friday. So I just think a lot of the Combine stuff is cool to see, but you can see it on TV. I think the people that go to the Combine, you're there to hear about the rumors and all that. But really, first time any of us have heard from Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji since the season ended, and I think all eyes are going to be on Glenn.
Yeah, so this is my first time going. When do I leave? Because I was like, do I leave Thursday, Friday? And then I'm like, wait, the quarterbacks and wide receivers go Saturday, so I kind of want to be there for that, but is it even worth being there? Because I heard that you don't get a lot of access as media during the drills. So, like,
Nope.
You're leaving Friday? Is that because you don't get a lot of access during the drills, or?
There's really nothing to it. Like, they're just running around. The prospects will do press conferences like Thursday and Friday. Maybe they start Wednesday if I remember correctly. So like you could definitely stay if you're super into it. It's cool. But you'll see like by Thursday, late afternoon, people start clearing out, and I'm leaving Friday.
And Saturday is when the quarterbacks and wide receivers go. So that's why I was looking at the schedule and I'm like, yeah, I'll clear out Friday. And then I saw that and I'm like, I guess I'll stay for the quarterbacks. I mean, hey, I can't complain, but we shall see. I think it's going to be a fun time. Matt, what do you really look at with the Combine, right? You do your weekly mock drafts on Mondays. You're deep into the NFL draft. As a, Jets fan perspective or just NFL draft, what do you think you can get away from the Combine? What are you looking for from these guys in general?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't put as much into like the Combine testing. I kind of like watching the tape and reading the different scouting reports from people that I trust their opinions on. I think that to me is more valuable. But with the combine, it's kind of the first time that everyone in the NFL world is together in the beginning of the 2026 offseason. So, like Jake was saying, I think the rumors and like, what the different rumblings coming out of the combine on like who the Jets may be interested in targeting in free agency, like that stuff kind of tends to come out around that time. So I find more value in that, to be honest with you, than any of the drafts or the drills that they run for the NFL draft.
Now, are there any players specifically, or are we just looking at what Aaron Glenn and Muji has to say? Because I do agree that's my favorite thing is getting, especially with the Jets coming off a whole new coaching staff. There's going to be a lot of questions that's going to be going to both Glenn and Muji. If you were there, Matt, what would you want to ask Darren Muji? What would be a question that you'd want to ask Darren Muji yourself if you were able to?
What does Aaron Glenn do well as a head coach?
You're stealing Jake's question.
No, yeah, I don't know. We're not going to get, and that's the tough part too, is there's a lot
I'll
of.
ask it to Glenn. Aaron,
Okay.
what do you do well as a head coach? Matt can ask it to Muji.
Yeah. I love it. But you're going to get a lot of coach speak answers. So unfortunately, like, I don't think we're going to get a ton of info out of either of those two guys. I guess I'd ask them about the quarterback, but I'm sure you're going to get the answer like, oh, we're going to, leave no stone unturned. We're looking at the draft and the free agent guys and always making calls on the trade market. So that's what I'm most interested in. I just don't know if we're going to get like a real answer from them on that.
Jake, are you going to ask Glenn that question? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm going to say, Aaron, what do you do well as a head coach? Honestly, here's the question I would have for Muji and Glenn. A year ago, you guys signed Justin Fields to a 2-year deal for $30 million guaranteed. You now need a quarterback again going into this offseason. What did you learn about that process that you guys think will help you as you evaluate quarterbacks of this offseason that you can now apply to try and get it right? Because I won't say this to them. You're not going to get a third chance at it if it goes as bad as it went with Justin Fields.
It's just going to not say that part. But yeah, I think that is a really good question because the one thing I will say, and this is not just in football and as a coach or a GM, just in life in general, I always go by this saying where the greatest teacher is experience in anything. You learn on the fly, you learn from mistakes, and it's up to both Muji and Glenn to learn from their mistakes, because if they allow those mistakes to compound, like Jake said, that's not going to they're not going to be able to be here long term. Like, you have to go through it, see where you went wrong, you learn from it, and you move on. If they keep going the spiral and they say they sign a Malik Willis to a similar deal in a new way and he stinks, I mean, what are we doing? Right. So they got to figure out the quarterback situation 110%. And I really do wonder where they're going to go. Now, are we looking at these quarterbacks at the combine? How much do we evaluate the quarterbacks themselves spinning the ball around? Like, are you going to be looking at a Ty Simpson? Are you going to be looking at a Garrett Nussmeier? And Cole Payton was actually a really cool prospect to watch at the Senior Bowl. We had a cool interview with him. Actually, Justin Morris, our intern, that was his first ever interview he did, was with Cole Payton. He was a really cool, chill dude. I was like, yo, would you be a Jet? It's just funny when you're there. But you made a video about Cole Payton, Matt. You have any intrigue on him?
I just think it's interesting that it seems like his stock is rising, and there were reports that the NFL is maybe a little bit higher on him than the draft community. And, if you're a evaluator or just a fan that likes to bet on quarterbacks with traits, he fits that bill, right? Like, obviously playing at North Dakota State, like, the competition is going to come into question. He only has 13 starts, which, like, those things make me a little bit nervous. But again, if you're looking for the quarterback that has like all the physical tools and you can mold them, Cole Payton fits that description, and he's athletic too, running with the ball in his hands.
Now, are you looking at any quarterbacks in this combine, Jake, in terms of watching them throw? Do you evaluate how they look from that capacity, just from a quarterback perspective, or what?
I'm intrigued by it, especially Nussmeier, because I thought he looked pretty good at the Senior Bowl. So does he build on it now at the scouting combine? But it's always tricky when you evaluate guys against air or guys throwing to receivers they've never worked with. It's tricky. So I think you take it with a grain of salt. The measurable stuff, I think, is more important than anything else. The medicals, all that.
One thing I will say, I'm upset with the NFL about is they did not invite my boy Tyron Montgomery to the combine. He was the Senior Bowl star, and I developed a nice connection with him. And I remember when I had a one-on-one interview with him on Roundtable Sports, and I asked him, what's next for you, like the combine? And he said, like, if I get invited. And it made me realize, like, oh, wow, like, you don't even know if you're getting invited, you know? And his story is unique because he was D3 and he wasn't even forced to be D3. His whole story is just remarkable. And they didn't invite him. When it came out of all the players, the first thing went to the wide receivers. He's someone that is just a really genuine good dude, and I'm rooting for him wherever he does get drafted, whether he gets drafted or goes undrafted. But that was a really cool story of the Senior Bowl, and it goes to show you that some of these prospects, they have different approaches. Now he has to focus on the pro day. Not everybody does get invited to the combine, and I didn't realize that. I thought it was more like you're all coming through, but we'll see. There are some other guys, of course, we're going to keep an eye on, but at the end of the day, it's really about connections. It's really about the GMs and the head coaches coming together. There's going to be rumbling. There's going to be reports. Everyone's going to start talking. And then all of a sudden, free agency is here. So we shall see. I will be there at the combine reporting to you live. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be me and Justin Morris and our Texans creator and maybe TD Finstock. We're still trying to see if he's going to come or not. He usually...
No Dan Mitchell? What is this?
Dan's like, nah, you're good, man. I'm like, all right. Dan's a homebody, man.
Wow.
That's what I've learned. I'm like, Dan. And then Colby actually was just in Turkey.
Getting a little hair thing.
So he needs some rest. so yeah. But I'm always there, Jake. You'll get sick of me by this time. You know what I mean?
I love it. And when do you get to town, Richie?
Monday.
All right, 7:30. I have a reservation at St. Elmo's. We'll do it right. We'll break your St. Elmo's virginity. You'll try the shrimp cocktail, and you'll become.
I'm unfamiliar. I don't even know what this is. What is this place?
So the Combine, Indianapolis, is known for their shrimp cocktail at the steakhouse called St. Elmo's. It's where you'll see a ton of football people. There's like a couple of steakhouses that people gather at, but that's like the most famous one people talk about. And they're known for their shrimp cocktail. It's very spicy. I can't actually try it myself because I have a shellfish allergy, but I've seen plenty of people try it. Some love it. Some hate it because it's too spicy. It almost killed Antoine Staley of the New York Daily News when I went out to dinner with him 2 years ago. So we'll see how you handle it. But 7:30, I already got the res. I'm putting you down. We'll see you there.
Well, I do like shrimp and I do like spicy food. So sounds like it'd be up my alley.
And bring Justin Morris as well. All right. We'll see how he can handle it.
Oh, for sure. And I'm excited for Ruben because he's a character. I never met him in person, but he's been our Texans creator for the AFC South Roundtable since we started. And he's a great dude. He's hilarious. And I'm just excited to meet him in person. And he's excited for this. So we'll see. I'll be there. And the shrimp, we'll get a video of it and everything, see if I can handle it. But I think I'll be fine. I hope. Who knows? Now, moving right along, the Jets have a decision to make on their offensive line, a big one. Left guard is a big need because two of their free agents are at that position, AVT Simpson, and there's also a potential contract negotiation the Jets could start with Joe Tippmann. So I want to get your guys' thoughts of this real quick. Number one, before we get into AVT versus John Simpson, we've talked about that already, but can you see the Jets negotiating a deal with Joe Tippmann to extend him long-term? Because he is entering an expiring year on his contract, Matt.
Yeah, I would. I would give him a contract extension. I really liked what we saw from him at right guard. He seemed to really settle in. And, you know, that was kind of a conversation that fans were having about him, whether he'd end up settling in at center and guard. And, you know, after the addition of Josh Myers and when AVT went down, he slid over and I think he did a great job. So I would extend him. I think he's earned it. He was really good and consistent. And that's one of the guys that I think you want to build around.
And it seems like his permanent home now is right guard. Would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wouldn't way that
move him back. I would just keep him at right guard now.
Yeah. The continuity is a big thing that the Jets have because you're lucky enough to have Olu and Membu for long-term on cheap control until they're eligible for their deals. Joe Tippmann was a second-round pick, so you're not able to give him a fifth-year option. And you don't want this to continue. You don't want to wait too long, and then it's a franchise tag situation next year or anything like that. I would definitely get it done. Jake, do you think that's something the Jets would want to do now is extend Joe Tippmann, or is that something they're going to worry about in the middle of the season?
I think they could get it done this offseason. I think it would make sense. Why not try and keep him? What they're going to do at guard is fascinating because what if they let both AVT and Simpson go? And what if they're like, hey, Joe, we're going to move you back to center. It's easier for us to put, draft a guard or sign someone else. I mean, if they sign Linderbaum, then all of a sudden, what's their plan for the other guard spot? Is it going to be Myers moving over to left guard and then you leave Tippmann at right guard? So I think we get a pretty good idea what the plan is for Tippmann based on how they handle AVT and John Simpson.
Yeah, and I think that Joe Tippmann, number one, needs to be extended. I think that's no brainer. He's young. He is only going to get better. Continuity matters. But when it comes to AVT versus John Simpson, we've talked about this already. I mean, I just feel like, what even is AVT's market? What are other teams going to be willing to pay Elijah Vera Tucker? Because that matters. If the Jets say, hey, we want to give you a 1-year prove-it deal, but there's another team that's like, hey, we're willing to give you a 3-year deal, do you think AVT would probably take that? So what do you think the Jets would have to give AVT for him to come back? Because don't you feel like there's going to be other teams that be willing to take that risk?
Yeah, probably, right? Like we saw it with Mekhi Becton a couple of years ago. He got a 1-year deal, though. I don't know if anyone's going to go super long-term with Elijah Vera Tucker coming off the injuries. I was just kind of looking to see if Spot Track had his market value. They do have him signing a multi-year deal. So I don't know. From like the Jets perspective on it, I would have a hard time doing that with the injuries. I think he's an extremely talented player when he's on the field, but 3 season-ending injuries in 5 years, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, it's a big problem. Jake, do you think it's worth the risk of bringing AVT back with that injury history, or what do you think?
If it's multiple years, I got to commit. I wouldn't do it. If I can get him on a 1-year deal, incentives for playing time, I'm all for it. But I'm not going to overpay again for a guy who's missed essentially parts of like 3 full seasons.
Yeah, that's the problem. He was also voted a team captain, and that was like a big deal. And he was ready to take on and I would argue, and Arma Membu may be saying something of his own, but when healthy, I would argue AVT is the best player on the offensive line. I know Membu kind of stepped up. You can argue it could be Membu and even Olu and Tippmann, but AVT is that good when healthy. It's not like he can't play ball. He just can't stay on the field. And knowing me and knowing all of us, knowing the Jets, we let him walk. He's going to the Patriots, and he never misses a game, and he's an all-pro. I don't want that to happen, guys. I simply don't.
No, I get that. It's a real fear.
He's going to go to Miami or another team that's not even in the division. Like Mekhi, he went to the Eagles. He was phenomenal, played well, and now he's kind of fizzled out with the Chargers. But it's the Jets way. Unfortunately, we have a culture here where, who knows, we're probably going to look up and see the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl next year. Not happening, of course, but that's just the Jets' luck. Robert Saleh versus Mike LaFleur in the Super Bowl. Can you imagine that? After seeing Sam Darnold win the Super Bowl, it's just all the former Jets, they always thrive when they leave, and I don't want to see AVT leave and thrive without the Jets. And the same thing goes with Breece Hall. And I don't really care too much about Sauce, to be honest, because we got a big-time package in return. So he can be a baller for the Colts, and I would not care because we got that capital. But don't you feel like there's a risk of letting him walk because he's going to be a stud somewhere else? You're like, nah, man, that injury is way too much. And then on the flip side, John Simpson, is that someone you're willing to give a 2-year, 3-year contract to? Because he's durable, but he was the worst offensive lineman, I would say, out of the 5 last year in terms of penalties and inconsistency. You can argue him or Josh Myers. I think Myers is probably worse, to give him the credit.
Yeah, Simpson, I thought he was much better in year 1 than year 2. He's also, though, I think he's a leader in that locker room too. So AVT, he was named captain, but I think John Simpson is a vocal guy in that room. So I don't think he's as good as Elijah Vera Tucker, but the issue is health. And it comes down to if you want to take the bet on whether or not AVT is going to be healthy. If you want to go with the higher upside, then sign AVT. If you want to go with someone who is going to play 17 games, then John Simpson's your answer. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. Only time will tell, but time is finally ticking on our side. All right, folks. Final topic. Is Woody Johnson getting in Aaron Glenn's way? There was a report that suggested that there was a meeting between Aaron Glenn and Woody Johnson right before he was about to hire Wink Martindale. And Aaron Glenn said, I was ready to hire Wink, but Woody's like, you call the defense. I pay you to do that. Are you buying this report that Woody Johnson is getting in the way of Aaron Glenn? Or do you think that this is not how it actually went? Jake, I'll start off with you. What's your thoughts of Woody Johnson getting in and starting to really manage Aaron Glenn?
Did he say you better do it, or did he suggest, hey, I think you should do this? You know, you're making $12 million a year. You're a defensive guy. We just watched Mike McDonald win the Super Bowl doing it. Robert Saleh said one of his biggest regrets was not calling the plays more and on a game in, game out basis with the Jets, even though he was heavily involved. So, again, is it meddling? I mean, maybe, maybe not, but I don't think it's a bad thing that Woody's basically saying, you do it. Why do I need Wink Martindale, who wasn't very good the last time we saw him do it at the NFL level? And most importantly, stunk at Michigan. We don't need him. He's a serial leaker. All the beat reporters just wanted him to be hired so they would have a source in the building. I'm good. I don't need Wink Martindale. Let Glenn call the plays. And I'm sure Woody said, we'll spend money on Frank Reich if that's your pick for the OC.
If Aaron Glenn fixes this defense, Woody gets all the credit. Now, all jokes aside, I did have a conversation on the AFC East Roundtable, and I'm realizing that I think there's a shift in the era of football we're in, where early 2020s, it was an offensive air-rated league with Mahomes putting up 50-plus passing touchdowns, and it was just offense. You look at the defensive performance in the playoffs this past year, it was all turnovers, all defensive football, really winning games. And like you mentioned, Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator for the Ravens, head coach now for the Seahawks, he's calling the plays on defense. They win a Super Bowl. Patriots in the playoffs, Mike Vrabel's the head coach, defense. You see Robert Saleh, he's now the head coach for the Titans. He's going to be calling plays, something he did not do with the Jets. Same with Jesse Minter with Baltimore. He's going to be calling plays. So there's a shift now happening in the NFL with defensive-minded head coaches starting to call plays. And I actually think it's smart for Aaron Glenn to call the plays. And I know, Jake, you got to run. And I just want to get your last thoughts about that, because it seems like there's a shift in energy around the NFL that we're entering a defensive-minded league. So I think it may be the best possible scenario for Aaron Glenn to be more hands-on and call the plays based off what you're seeing around the league.
Agreed. I have no issue with it. If Glenn's going to go down doing with what helped you get the job in the first place. Fix the defense. Don't say we're running the Wilkes system and do nothing when you're a defensive head coach. I don't think Woody Johnson's out of line for asking a defensive head coach to call plays for his defense. We know they're going to make a lot of investments into that side of the ball. There can't be an excuse, oh, Glenn needs his guys. He can get all these guys. He has all the resources to do it. Now go out there and do it.
I agree. Jake Asman, you're the man. Everyone go check out his YouTube channel at The Jake Asman Show. See you later, Jake.
Always a pleasure, guys. Sorry I can't stay for the full thing, but timing did not work this week, but I will be back. Are we going to do a show from the Combine, Richie, if we're both going to be there?
We will. We weren't able to do one at the Super Bowl or the Senior Bowl, but we'll make it happen.
I can't wait. So looking forward to it, guys. See you soon.
Later, Jake. All right, Matt, want to get your thoughts of this. Do you agree with my take of the NFL getting into more of a defensive type of era?
I think so, right? Like, it feels like the NFL is very cyclical, and every team, the offense was the big thing, and they're going 3 wide and throwing the ball all over the yard. I think we've seen more teams and some really good play callers, for instance, like obviously Sean McVay with the Rams, use a lot of 3 tight ends. So I think the smart offensive coordinators are adjusting. And you need a smart defensive mind, obviously, to go along with those adjustments, because the league changes so rapidly. So I don't know that it's going to go all the way back to like half the coaches or more than half the coaches are going to be a defensive minded head coach. But I don't think it's impossible for a defensive minded head coach to be successful. And that's a narrative that gets pushed around a little bit too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I bring this up, because there was an era like you have to have an offensive-minded head coach, otherwise you will fail. But then the Seahawks hire a young, upcoming DC, a coach that, by the way, every Ravens fan was upset they did not just hire him instead of letting him walk. He goes to Seattle, and the defense, I mean, that defense was ridiculous in the Super Bowl. They were calling blitzes left and right. That was a defensive masterclass, and it wasn't just in the Super Bowl. It was the whole season, and that was a Mike McDonald defense. And I think that, like, You look and even think of it from this perspective, Matt. When was the last head coach that called plays on defense besides like this era? Like, I feel like that was never even a thing. Usually defensive minded head coaches never called plays. Like, remind me, I don't even remember right now. It's blank. I'm blanking. Did Todd Bowles call plays for the Jets?
I think he did.
He did, right?
I want to say he
like
did.
Rex did. Rex did. And then Saleh. And then it went into this era of defensive-minded head coaches delegating. Saleh delegated. And he said, like, yeah, I felt like it was just like, a spectator with a challenge flag. Like, all right, Saleh, thanks for being our coach.
You could have changed that. Like, you could have been if that's how you felt, you could have been like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should take over play calling.
I had a conversation at Radio Row, and I do have some, I don't know what to call it, Matt, because I got to be careful with this, but I did talk to someone that had some inside information about the Saleh scenario era with the Jets, and it kind of was mind-blowing. I heard a story that, I don't know if it's confirmed or not, so take it with a grain of salt, that Jeff Ulbrich was asking Saleh for more help on the defense, and Saleh was just like, that's your problem type of feel. It's like Ulbrich's like, hey, like, I'm trying to figure out this player's development. And he was trying to like pick Saleh's brain. And there's a lot of like the energy he was giving off was, that's your problem. I got to focus on this. Or I'm the head coach. I got to worry about everything. Like, you're the defensive coordinator. You worry about the defense type of energy. And obviously Saleh learned from that because now he's the play caller for the Titans. But I thought that was an interesting thing I learned.
That is interesting. Shocking. He was a little stubborn, it seems.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, listen, if the Jets defense becomes elite, maybe this is Woody Johnson's ticket for us to start giving him the credit.
Hey,
he's like, and then he's going to come out and be like, that was me.
Of course. He's going to be the one who makes it well known. Hey, that's on me. That's why. We almost hired
I was the one that was like, hey, I mean, Aaron Glenn, you got this job because you call plays. Why don't you do it? See, I know ball.
There we go.
And seems like Woody Johnson is, I don't know if seems the right word, but even on the outside looking in from the Jets, everyone looks at the Jets and they look at Woody. It's not just our fans that hate him. It's just like he feels like an owner that no one respects. He did not want the report cards to come out because of the letter grade F. He just needs to get the right guys to run the job. And right now, we got to see if Muji and Glenn are the right guys because there's obviously an issue at the top. And I don't know when it'll get fixed. Like, what's your thoughts of the ownership and the overall way that the organization is being run? Is there any reason for hope, or is it just like a cycle that'll never end?
I think the best thing that he could do is hire the right football people and stay out of the way and just open up the checkbook. Him getting involved,
meddling,
yeah,
in the way.
He loves to get in the way. That's his thing, and I don't think it's a good thing. And I also just, it's kind of ridiculous that instead of receiving the F grade and going, wow, I really should like look myself in the mirror and see what I have to change, he just goes, you know what, these are BS, and I'm going to try to get these banned from the public so no one knows how bad I am. Doesn't make any sense.
I agree. Like, I'm someone that absolutely loves constructive criticism. If I'm doing something wrong in any capacity in my work or anything, I want to know about it so I can learn from it. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to be butthurt. Like, tell me straight up so I can learn from it. That's not the mindset with Woody. There's an ego there that's like, oh, well, I got to protect my image. And how about you hold yourself accountable and say, yeah, I need to be better. I want to have a better environment. And,
right,
you know, the one person I always come back to that is the glue of this entire organization right now, it's Garrett Wilson. Like, that man just spews positivity. He spews just loyalty, and man, are we lucky to have that guy.
Yeah, he's personifies exactly what you want out of your star player. How he holds himself off the field is exactly what you want to see.
Exactly. Like, it really does matter, especially with the fan base like us that's like starving for like somebody to be loyal to us because all we have is divas or guys that want out. But having Garrett Wilson, like, having our back publicly, it's just a breath of fresh air, and I'm never going to take him for granted. And I hope that he gets a quarterback one day that's going to take him to the next level, and he's going to be a dog forever. So let us know your thoughts in the comments about Woody Johnson and the overall organization, the way it's constructed, because if Aaron Glenn's defense turns around, maybe Woody will get his credit. You never know. But I do honestly agree with what Jake was saying. Like, Would you rather have Aaron Glenn call your plays as a head coach and hire a Brian Duker, or have Wink Martindale as your DC? That felt like a very polarizing guy. Like, I'd rather get Aaron Glenn, like really get hands on with his defense, fix it. And I think the biggest problem with the defense last year, outside of the talent, was miscommunication. Like, they did not get on the same page. The system was too confusing that Wilkes was implementing and Glenn was implementing. The players were on the field not communicating. When there was pre-snap motions and stuff, you can tell that they were not on the same page. That's why there was broken coverages left and right. They got to get on the same page. And that's a big thing. And I think that the Jets are going to be focusing in on, because that's how elite secondaries become elite. If you talk about it, if you listen to all the elite defenses talk, it's all about communication. So hopefully they can be on that. But that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Jets Roundtable. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the consistent love and support. Make sure you guys go check out Matt O'Leary on YouTube and all platforms, the Just Jets podcast, Talking Jets. I mean, you name it, Matt O'Leary, you're everywhere in Jets land.
Yeah, busy guy. Love hanging out with you on the Jets Roundtable, and looking forward to another show next week.
Absolutely. Matt, appreciate you as always. Shout out to everybody in the chat, and shout out to my boy Zachary, who's here in the chat for literally every single live stream I think I've ever done in my life. The guy's just there, whether it's Roundtable or whether it's Jets Media. Zachary Burner, you're the man. I appreciate you for the support. And listen to him. Hit the like button before you leave. What the heck? What are you waiting for? And shout out to my boy Matthew Wilson, who is the face of the Jets Roundtable on socials, and you'll see some more uploads from him. And he's also going to join us on the live streams soon, where you'll have Matt, Jake, myself, and Matthew, who will be doing some Jets talk. So go check out the content he's creating here on the channel. We're excited, man. So hit that thumbs up button. We're on our way out. We'll see you next time. Peace.